Manal Al-Sharif, Daring to Drive, A Saudi Woman's Awakening. Be prepared to embark on a journey through the life of Manal Al-Sharif, a brave woman who fought for her right to drive in Saudi Arabia, defying the nation's strict customs. This summary of A Daring to Drive, A Saudi Woman's Awakening, takes the reader through Al-Sharif's whirlwind experiences of activism and change. Gain an understanding of the harsh realities faced by women in Saudi Arabia, including restrictions on freedom, mobility, and equality. Witness the significant cultural, political, and social implications of Al-Sharif's choices and how they sparked a movement demanding for change.
Driving while female. Manal Al-Sharif's account of defying Saudi Arabian custom by driving, her subsequent arrest, and fight for women's right to drive. It was 2 a.m. when the secret police showed up at Manal Al-Sharif's home demanding she come to the police station for driving while female. The day before, Al-Sharif had been detained for 5 hours and forced to sign a paper promising not to drive on Saudi land again. But after news of her arrest spread on social media, the secret police came back to her home, insisting that she come with them. Al-Sharif, the only woman working in the information security group at the Western-style compound owned by the Saudi Arabian oil company, Aramco, knew that leaving without her official guardian, a male member of her family, was a red flag. Women were not allowed to conduct official business without a chaperone, and the police's willingness to separate her from her brother was concerning. Before leaving in the police car, Al-Sharif contacted a CNN journalist to broadcast what was happening, ensuring that she wouldn't disappear. The police took her to a station much further away from her home, but she was determined to fight for women's right to drive. Al-Sharif's story sheds light on the rigid gender roles and customs in Saudi Arabia, but also on the bravery and persistence it takes to challenge them. The price of driving while female in Saudi Arabia. Manal Al-Sharif, a Saudi Arabian woman, was interrogated, humiliated, and sent to prison for driving. Her story highlights the oppressive reality for women in Saudi Arabia whose love for their king is evaluated by their loyalty to his policies. Officials questioned and harassed her, confiscating her belongings before locking her up with a female guard in a room reeking of filth. Transported to a prison with men with concealed faces, she feared that she would never return. The prison warden taught her a lesson for appearing unveiled in a newspaper photo and shamed her family and religion. Al-Sharif's experience revealed that driving as a woman in Saudi Arabia was a criminal offense, leaving her with a fitful sleep surrounded by cockroaches in a room filled with foreign women, oblivious to the outside world that knew of her arrest. Breaking Barriers in Saudi Arabia. A memoir of a young girl's journey to becoming a leading activist in Saudi Arabia, despite cultural and religious barriers. Manal Al-Sharif never anticipated that she would become an activist fighting for change in the religious and cultural norms of Saudi Arabia. Raised in a poor family in Mecca, she spent most of her childhood confined to her family's apartment due to cultural beliefs that prohibit girls from going out alone. But amidst the restrictions, she found solace in reading books and playing soccer on her uncle's rooftop. Despite the challenges imposed by cultural and religious norms, Al-Sharif's mother ensured that all of her children received an education. She also encouraged her daughter to challenge the patriarchal system by insisting that school officials register her son even when his father wasn't present. In addition, Al-Sharif's Libyan heritage allowed her mother to retain some independence, which was uncommon in Saudi Arabia, where women weren't allowed to drive and relied solely on men for most of their needs. As a devoutly religious teenager, Al-Sharif zealously followed the religious tenets even if it meant giving up drawing portraits or reporting her brother's infractions to her father. However, the restrictions imposed by the government became more apparent as their move towards prosperity and modernization halted with the beheadings of 63 fundamentalist rebels in Mecca's Grand Mosque in 1980. New restrictions imposed by the government limited women's freedom, hindering their access to education and job opportunities. Moreover, religious police became more powerful, and the textbooks taught in schools were based on violent ideologies that were later adopted by terrorist groups such as Al-Qaeda and ISIS. The police prevented young girls from leaving a burning school in 2012 due to improper coverings, leading to the death of 15 girls. The environment became even more restrictive with the requirement of head-to-toe coverings for female students, preventing them from moving freely. Despite all these hindrances, Al-Sharif became a leading activist, fighting for the rights of Saudi Arabian women. In 2012, she was arrested for driving, which was forbidden to women. Her activism earned her international recognition, and she continues to inspire women globally to challenge the status quo. A journey of transformation. Al-Sharif's transformation from a radical extremist to a rational thinker is a compelling story. Her journey began when she chose computer science as her area of study and initially frowned upon the behavior of female students on campus. However, reading online articles criticizing her extreme ideology allowed her to rethink her beliefs. Her epiphany came when she witnessed 15 of her countrymen among the attackers during the 9/11 attacks. This event prompted her to let go of her dogmatic views and emerge as a transformed individual. Breaking stereotypes in Saudi Arabia. A Saudi woman chooses a promising career over a forced marriage despite the challenges of an overly conservative society. Manal Al-Sharif defies societal norms by gaining employment in Aramco, the pinnacle of Saudi success. She challenges the traditional role of women in Saudi society by being the only woman in the Information Protection Division. She married and had a child with a very conservative Saudi who became abusive. Despite the challenges, afterward, she focused on building a promising career. Determined to secure independence, she leased a house with another female employee, keeping it hidden from her family. Driving change in Saudi Arabia. Manal Al-Sharif's journey from challenging social norms to becoming a prominent figure in advocating for women's rights to drive in Saudi Arabia. Manal Al-Sharif's year-long work exchange program in the United States showed her a different way of life compared to her conservative upbringing in Saudi Arabia. Her experience challenged her beliefs about homosexuals and Jews, and she learned about civil rights activist Rosa Parks' heroic actions. Returning back home was a culture shock for Al-Sharif, which led her to start a Facebook group to organize female Aramco employees. It was during this time that she discovered driving restrictions on women in Saudi Arabia were not backed up by traffic codes. Al-Sharif joined a Facebook event advocating for women's right to drive and eventually became a site administrator. She used Twitter and the hashtag #WomenToDrive to campaign for the cause. Her video posted on YouTube received both support and brutal criticism, attracting media interviews with TV hosts in the United Arab Emirates, Bloomberg News, and CNN. Despite receiving threatening emails and calls, Al-Sharif didn't back down. Her video of driving went viral, and she received international attention. A traffic cop later pulled her over, and Saudi religious police surrounded her car, leading to her detainment in Dammam Women's Prison. Her freedom was eventually secured, but the incident changed her life. Aramco gave Al-Sharif an ultimatum when she was invited to accept the Václav Havel Prize for Creative Dissent at the Oslo Freedom Forum. She could keep her job or attend the event, not both. She resigned and spoke at Oslo, but opponents intentionally mistranslated her speech into Arabic, which depicted her as a traitor to her religion. The hostile aftermath caused her brother to emigrate to Kuwait. Manal Al-Sharif's journey from challenging social norms to becoming a prominent figure in advocating for women's rights to drive in Saudi Arabia is an inspiring story of courage and resilience in the face of adversity. Fighting for the right to drive. Manal Al-Sharif's journey from jobless immigrant to women's rights activist in Saudi Arabia led to the ultimate repeal of the ban on women driving. Manal Al-Sharif's move to Dubai as a married Brazilian led to her realization that her true purpose was activism after facing joblessness for 2 years. In 2013, hundreds of women protested by driving cars in Saudi Arabia, prompting an unsuccessful attempt in 2015 to allow women to drive cars. 2 female activists were even jailed for 70 days. However, with Al-Sharif having immigrated to Australia, the ban was finally repealed in 2018. Her efforts enabled the women of Saudi Arabia to drive cars, giving them newfound freedom.
In conclusion, Daring to Drive recounts the extraordinary story of Manal Al-Sharif, who, despite facing severe scrutiny and backlash, never wavered from her unwavering fight for women's rights in Saudi Arabia. Her courageous stand against the ban on women driving eventually led to its uplifting in June 2018 when after she immigrated to Australia. As a testament to the power of activism and resilience, this book showcases the importance of advocating for change, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. So embrace the lessons grappling with perseverance, the strength of womanhood, and Al-Sharif's unstoppable quest for freedom and equality within her nation.